Hi guys, Fabio Palvelli here with the D2 conference. At D2, we believe in bringing you the right content for you to keep learning and keep growing in the field of archviz so that you as an artist can unlock your true creative potential. This is why we have designed the Inspiration series, a small collection of talks done to help you connect the creativity dots in and out of our professional field. If this is your first time here on our channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like our videos, feel free to share them with your friends and colleagues. It will mean the world to us. This time I'm interviewing Edon Guraziu, a young designer based in the Netherlands. Edon has a very recognizable style and his work is nothing short of amazing. He is a self-taught artist, and thanks to his discipline and attitude, he has been able to achieve so much at a very young age. The conversation, it's very open between us and some strong language is used from time to time, so viewers' discretion is advised. I really hope you're gonna enjoy this episode. 3, 2, 1, and we're recording. Edon, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Fantastic. Now that I get to talk to you, I mean, it's been quite a long process, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You know that we started speaking around like 9 months ago?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, man. Almost a year.
It takes time to plan all this stuff. People don't realize it. But, it also takes time on your end to kind of like fit it with your, plans and everything.
Schedule, yeah. No, yeah, but I'm happy to be on here, man. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
I'm very excited because, we'll get to it, but I really admire you for a lot of reasons. We'll get to it in a second. I just want to give a little introduction to those who might be listening but don't really have an idea who you are, all right? So Edon Guraziu is the founder of Edon Tech Industries, a company based in the Netherlands. Edon is a conceptual designer currently working on robotics, products, firearms, and films. He's passionate about technological advancements and aesthetics. Throughout his career working in these different industries, Edon has been able to learn a lot about technology, design, and about utilizing the tools necessary for creating visual and technical design solutions. As a concept designer, Edon worked with 20th Century Fox, Universal Pictures, MPC, Nvidia, the VR company, Method Studio, Swiss Federal Railways, NRA, just to name a few. And, by the time that we're doing this, I've already seen a couple of new employers in your curriculum. Edon, I have so many ways to start this conversation. However, the one thing that I want to ask you is, how did you manage to achieve so much at such a young age? Because you are what? You're from 96, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're like what, 22? Not even 23?
22, yeah.
Damn, man. At 23, I lived in a hostel.
Yeah. How old are you, Fabio?
This year I'm gonna be 37.
Ah, congratulations.
I look young, but
Yeah, definitely.
That doesn't take away from the fact that you've been able to achieve so much at such a young age. Can you please expand a little bit on that? I'll be really interested to find out more.
Basically, I'm just doing what I love, man. I guess I'm lucky that I found out early what my passions were. I've always been a creative kid, and my dad was also very creative. He could draw and he could paint, so he was a big influence on my interests as a kid, younger. And I feel that creativity was an outlet for me, and I'm very grateful and for the opportunities that I got to do what I want, But I guess it just kind of happened, to be honest. So
I see. And you just mentioned about your father being also very creative. What did he do? Was he an artist? Was he a designer of some sort?
In his spare time, he would paint with oils and watercolor, and he would teach me, and he would give me the art books that he has for me to study from, and that's what I've been doing, really. He gave me the opportunity to express my creativity when I was younger, some parents, they really want their kid to focus on the study. You know how that goes. They want the kid to be a doctor, or they want them to put away the toys and learn. But I feel like I really got offered the opportunity and freedom to express myself creatively, and I'm very grateful for that. So I think that's also a big part of it.
It's very important to me that you say this, because I think that that was basically my case. I don't blame my parents for that. I think that, they simply have their kids' interest at heart, and you know, you never know how difficult it is to be a parent until you have a kid. I don't have kids, but to be honest with you, when I compare myself to people like you, for example, I get very frightened about the choices that I will have to make on behalf of my kids. You know what I mean?
That's a big thing, I think. But I think no one should be bitter about it, and I think they should understand that parents, make decisions purely out of love for their kids. But I think some will be more brave than others to really let them go, for them to do what they want. Yeah.
The reason also why I asked you this question is because I think that you, even though you're only 22, you take very much ownership of your decisions. I see it in the posts that you make on social media. You are about, taking action and understanding that it is up to you if something happens or not, Yeah. I've seen it like on Instagram of people like wishing to be you, and you are like, just do the fucking work. And I'm like, I wish more young people were like this, instead of being, easily offended and like, you don't understand my position. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that probably you don't understand his position. You know what I mean?
Exactly. A lot of those remarks on social media are definitely not sugar-coated or not PC whatsoever, because I like to keep things real, and I think that's really the essence of it. It's not only to work hard, but also smart, to know what exactly you're putting your effort into, and to do that strategically with intent. And I think that will book the best results, in my opinion. So
I agree 100%.
Nice. That's cool.
Okay, let's speak a little bit about yourself. You don't really have any formal training, if I don't mistake. You did not go to university, right?
Correct.
What was for you the main source of inspiration, and how did you educate yourself the way you did?
Well, that's an important question. So after, in the Netherlands, there was not really like a concept art center or art center like they have in Pasadena, California, And now we can see, luckily, that also in Europe, there are more establishments where they are starting to teach concept art and that kind of stuff, which is cool. But back in the day, it's only like super recently, but I mean, funny. There wasn't anything that I was interested in or that came close to concept art. So what I did was I chose a study that came closest to what I wanted, which was game art creation. So I attended for like 1.5 years, 2 years, and it taught me like basic 3D, some Photoshop, and how to UV map like, small game characters. But it was mainly focused on mobile games. So when my interest lost there, I quit school, and then I worked on my own for like 5 to 6 months on my portfolio, grinding until I accumulated enough work that got me a job in the industry, and that's when I got offered, like a position at a game company. So that's when everything kickstarted for me. But the most important thing in terms of self-education is to compartmentalize exactly what you want to know. People come to me and they say, like, hey, Edon, what website should I go to, to find the source with all the answers? And there is none. If you want to know about mechs, if you want to design mechs, mechs are very complex things. There are machines that fulfill certain purposes, and they use certain technologies, and there is not a website that teaches you, how to make this kind of mech. It just doesn't exist, So you really have to learn how to pinpoint exactly what you need to know, so you can tackle that one thing, and then read as much as possible about that one solution. And if you do this consistently, you gather enough information in your brain about all sorts of things that let you come up with design solutions on your own based on like real world knowledge and help you create realistic designs. So self-education is a big thing if you want to do it without school or without help of school. But I would definitely encourage, if you have the possibility, to take courses. Maybe you have some schools locally, you know. So I do encourage that, but you have to be very resilient if you don't have those opportunities.
Yeah, it's very true. I really appreciate this answer. Okay, so let's just, you know, for the curious ones, try to, and it's going to be very difficult, I know. Let's try to break down a little bit your workflow, you know, because you do very specific design, and to be honest with you, it's very recognizable. Like, I think that you managed to create something that, you know, it has a brand also from the way it looks. And, oh, by the way, I bought one of your knives. I still haven't got it, but I'm so excited, and I'm waiting for that knife so that I can start doing unboxing videos, you know?
Oh, really? That's cool,
like,
man.
I'm really, like, and probably I'm gonna do a video of the unboxing of the knife itself.
That'll be awesome, man. Yeah, let me know when you receive it. I think they'll be shipping soon, so.
Hopefully. But anyway, let's try to break down a little bit your workflow. Like, how do you create something from, you know, the initial idea all the way to the production, or maybe, you know, rendering if it's more convenient for you?
It really depends on the design brief. So, but I can use an example, all right? Let's say I work for a client and they want to make something for their, let's take the VR rifle, for example, because it's a physical product. You know, it has like a little bit different workflow. So first of all, what happens is when I discuss with the client, I want to address and find out all the needs that they have. So it's not about, we're not talking about colors or anything, or, you know, what it should have or anything. All I want to know is what problems do we need to solve? What is this for, you know? What type of people are using this thing? What age, you know? Are there going to be smaller kids or only adults playing because it has the effect on the size, on the ergonomics? I need to know the technology behind it. So what I'll do is I gather as much information as possible. I gather all the information that's necessary to put inside the gun. And then I come up with a couple of design solutions based on the design brief that I think will be a successful design. When we go through revisions or through an approval pass, you know, with my solutions, it's not really about feedback or anything. It's just like, how can we make it better? It's not necessarily, hey, I don't like the shape of this, but it's more like I'll be more focused on what can we do to make things better, and then we can go from there. Because an analogy that I can use is when you want to build your house, okay? You go to a contractor who is experienced and is skilled, hopefully, because maybe you picked him based on results, based on experience. Maybe your neighbor used the same contractor for your house, so you know how it goes. Once he starts, you know, laying down the foundation, and you go there, and you go to him and say, like, hey, I don't like the shape of this foundation. Like, have you ever heard anyone do that? Like, tell the contractor how to build the house? Yeah. No, because they stay in their own lane, you know? So that's like the same for me, usually, is when I get brought in for a project, people will respect the design solutions that I came up with because they place trust in the expert that they hired in for the job. And I think that's a very healthy relationship to have business-wise with your clients because it establishes trust, and also they know the status of the parties, so to speak. They won't email you how everything is going. They trust that everything will be done correctly. And then when you have the meeting, you show the results. And if you are as good as you claim to be, you will deliver those results and everything will be perfect. So that's like the relationship I'm striving for every time. And I think that's really the workflow. You know, in terms of design-specific workflow, I think an interesting thing to mention is that I use my brain a lot, and I will explain a little bit what I mean by that exactly. So I have the feeling when people open a 3D package, like Maya or Moi 3D, etc., they haven't really thought about the design in their head yet. So basically what they're using is they're using the outlet of the program to let the design come to life. But what I tend to do is I think about the design fully in 3D in my head first, because if we think about it, the brain is the most powerful computer that we have full control of, right? It's faster than any other computer on the world. It runs simulations tremendously powerfully. So it's just a really cool tool that we have, so we should use it, right? Because what you can do in your brain is you can create a design, you can create a volume, you can imagine whole worlds using your brain. So if you practice at visualizing 3D volumes in your brain and then making also the changes and judge how something looks in your brain, you can use that to your advantage. So what I'll do is I'll come up with the design in my head, and basically I'll be going on with my day, you know, and like I'm just thinking about what I want to design. And once I'm happy with something, I'll go and do the easiest part. Because I master some programs, I don't have to spend time learning about the program because I know how it works. I mastered the tool good enough to just execute what was in my head, right? So that's how I'm able, I think, to design pretty fast and also pretty accurately as to what I had in mind. And this comes with practice. But I just think that's a really cool thing to share, because I think more people should practice that way of designing and not let the program do it, so to speak, or let it unfold on screen. Do it yourself.
I think it's a very interesting approach, especially, you know, because of your ability to like seeing things in your head before like going into the package and developing them. I think that, you know, this is an issue that a lot of like designers have. Like they think they have an idea, but then they don't have the ability to kind of like think in three-dimensional things. So, you know, they'll make a sketch and they'll say, do it like this, and then you go and do the thing, and it's like you already know that it's not going to work because of like your ability to perceive this.
That's so true. And an interesting thing to share also is, you know, just like piano players who practice a lot of piano, their hand and finger coordination, that part of their brain controlling that also grows. So they do scans of the brain with piano players and non-piano players, and that part of their brain is more advanced. So it's crazy how fast also the brain adapts and grows to accommodate the needs of the person. And you can also practice this with the 3D visualization in your head. And you should start simple, like any exercise. You can, you know, take a small detail, really think in your brain how it looks like from all angles. And then also, if you have knowledge of a certain program, think about what tool you would use in that program to make that specific form. So think about like, all right, I have like a hole here for a screw. I need to make a boolean of that size into that portion, and then I would need to make a chamfer here to make that portion. And then once you practice that, also on a more advanced level, on more complex designs, you will see that you already made a roadmap on how to create that shape when you go behind the computer. So I think that's a really useful exercise your listeners should try out.
This is incredible. I really like that. Edon, to date, what is your greatest achievement, or, you know, the thing that you're most proud of?
Ooh, well, that's a tough question. It's really tough. I'm not really a person with like the most favorite song or like the most favorite film, because I'll have a favorite for every genre. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's like, I guess also the same for the projects that I worked on. I'm really happy with every project I worked on, because every time I learn something new and I put something of myself into the project, so I feel like every project I worked on is worth the same. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then if I learn something more from a specific project, I'll appreciate that more, of course. But I wouldn't have like a precious project or something. I think my own stuff, my own portfolio are the things that I'm most proud of.
I fear that all artists have the same kind of like issue. Like, you know, it's a professional deformation. You're never really that happy about, you know, what you have done. Like, you know it's good, but it can get better. And it's like, you're proud until you're about to give it away. And then when you give it away, you'll be like, ah, shit, it could have been better. You know, it's...
Always.
Yeah, but I guess that this is what pushes us to, you know, do more and more every time.
Yeah, definitely. Improvement is always better. And people who ask me, how do I get better, or how do I prepare a portfolio, etc., I always think every work that you make it your personal goal to make that your personal best benchmark, right? And it's funny because some people are older and then they are sad because I'm younger and there are more people that are younger than them. And I'm like, well, first of all, everyone is on his or her own journey. So you should never compare your timeline with someone else's timeline.
Yes.
But second of all, if every work that you make is a little bit better than the last piece of work you made, improvement is imminent. So eventually, if you keep improving, you'll get there. And the most important thing is to enjoy the process. Because if you keep your eyes focused on where you want to be, it can be very hard. So try to cherish the learning moments, try to cherish the process, and really enjoy, you know, the road you're walking on. So that's something really important.
100%, man, 100%. Okay, listen, I have a statement for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we're going into the same direction with this.
We'll see.
A lot of artists prioritize on their art because this is everything that they care about. And as a consequence, very often, they totally neglect the money side of things, and they either get screwed by their clients or make decisions that end up hurting the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. Now, what is your take on this?
Well, that's a pretty complex statement with multiple points. So we will need to unpack those. But I think it's important for people and artists as a collective to know their worth. Especially, you know, it's very easy for a market to get saturated. You know, the simple economics like supply and demand will take effect. Changing willingly or unwillingly, the rates that people are working for. People can also turn into an uneducated loop of wrong information that they hear from peers, but those peers, they got them the wrong information, you know, and it gets passed down to other inexperienced people who will then, you know, because the people starting today, they'll be the industry in like the next 5 years, you know, because it's an always growing organism. But it's definitely true that also big companies and studios have been misusing this. But, you know, it's also totally understandable because as a company, your main goal is to make profit, and if you can do that anywhere, they'll do it, which I would do as well. Let's not be angels. So it's very important to teach people through education, through sharing experiences. But also what's really important is this should not be like a hippie type of movement where everyone is just like, oh, we need to have higher rates, etc. It needs to be backed up with quality, first of all. That's the most important thing. And I mean, you know, it's like asking for a solution, which I don't have the answer to, unfortunately, but I can add to the discussion, and that is education and letting people know transparently what things should be like, because I feel people are way more worth than what they're charging today. And a lot of people charging a very low amount, it'll cause a ripple effect, and other companies will start offering lower rates, and then people, they need to pay their bills, so they'll do it, But by doing that, they actually accepted that change, which is very damaging, and it's unfortunate to see. So I would love to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think?
Well, that's the reason why I make these videos, there is no straight answer, and we cannot possibly think that all clients are the same, right? Like, there will be clients which need something that, doesn't really have a very high monetary value. And I think, if we look at the way macroeconomics work on a larger scale, in theory, to supply to that kind of market, there will be, like, say, emerging economies. But at the same time, you cannot simply say, okay, an Indian artist can charge less because they live in India. We're also talking about quality. I know artists based in Thailand which work on Hollywood productions, and they get paid Hollywood money simply because they're able to provide something that, somebody in America is not able to provide. So, to me, the most important thing is that people don't simply freestyle. Like, ask around, watch a video. Sometimes, I get frustrated because I send a video to somebody that is asking me a question, and they answer me, yeah, but I asked you a question, answer me the question. And I'm like, man, the discussion is so broad. I also get in touch with a lot of artists there. In terms of like quality, they're very low, and they're like, why do I get paid very little? And I'm like, you're not good. And they're like, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I hate you. And I'm like,
Sure. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I want to have this conversation with you is because you are like telling people work harder and get better. And I like this, especially coming from a younger guy, because as you said, you're going to be the future. I mean, most people at your age are still studying. You're already making stuff that shows up in movies that we see sold in a shop. And I'm like, we need this kind of like inspiration, guidance, and drive. And let's make more of this and less of those who on a public forum, they say, yeah, I charge 200 euros an image because that's an honest price. And I'm like, what the f does honest mean? There is no such a thing. It's like my software, I pay but probably 500 euros a month in assets, software. And it's like, if I have to book a job every 2 or 3 days that only pays me 200 euros, how am I going to support, all the rest? So it's like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what are the real costs, because I don't give a shit that you crack the software. That's not how the real world works. If everybody was cracking the software, tomorrow you will not have any fucking software. It's as simple as that.
So true, man.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's nice to have a discussion and also hear you. It's not really a one-sided interview, so it's nice to hear.
No, of course, I mean, to me, it would be interesting to hear your take on this, because, I mean, your results speak for themselves, Like, I look at your work, and I'm like, and I look at your attitude, and I'm hopeful, I'm like, yes, this is what we need. To go back to the interview, who was one of the person that, influenced you the most?
Well, first of all, I think I've had sufficient experience with the amount of clients and the amount of projects that I've gotten an all right understanding of client to business relationships, So I've made a lot of trial and error, and I started out like everyone else, but I think I learned from my mistakes very fast. And basically, I think when I was a bit younger, someone who I'm very happy to consider a very good friend right now is Ben Morrow.
Very nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. He would have very good advice, and I would tell him like, "Hey, man, this just happened," and then I'd ask for his input, and he's always been tremendously helpful. People who've been very helpful as well is also Vitaly Bulgarov. I'm very happy to be friends with him and learn from him, and those are definitely people that I respect, and I very much appreciate their input. So it's important to have like people like that around, for sure, definitely, to share experiences, to share your successes and your mistakes, so that everyone learns from them. So it's very important to have like a close circle of people that you communicate with, definitely. Also, a very good friend of mine who I've known for years now is Ivan Santic. Very great person who I've had like a lot of Skype calls with to discuss things, and it's just nice to have a place where you can open up to people and share your experiences and learn from each other. In terms of public sources of information, I think someone who I've been really drawing a lot of inspiration from is also the future, and not so much the team. I don't care about the team that much behind them. I care about Chris the most. Chris Doe is the one sharing the most juicy information, in my opinion. So I've been plucking his brain a little bit. And I think other than that, focusing a little, there are a couple of economic channels that I follow on YouTube, etc. So also in terms of self-education, there are a lot of other things that I try to keep myself informed on, not only art, etc. So because in the end, you're doing work that's a business, so you need to speak the language of business and be informed, and if you can, take like a community college class or whatever, just so you know what's going on, how to deal with financials, which is a very important thing, because in my opinion, artists are terrible businessmen, terrible. And this is probably part of their personality trait, but they should really try to inform themselves and be proficient in that area, because it either makes your life comfortable or not at all. So that's it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm very happy that, we took this segue into that that topic. Anyway, let me ask you, in terms of like attitude, professionalism, personality, what is the one thing that you think artists need in order to find their place in the industry and continue evolving? Like, if you were to ask me, I would say understanding that, the art that you make, it's not for everybody. And if shit hits the fan, you need to find other jobs in order for you to finance your art until you get to the point where somebody wants to buy it. And if nobody wants to buy it, and that's the only thing that you're interested in doing, then, you gotta do it for yourself and not think of like monetizing that. Then obviously you can find other ways to do creative jobs, but you gotta be focused and you gotta believe in yourself. And very often I think that people do the most convenient thing, which is, okay, Mr. Client, what do you need? Yes, okay, 3 pixels, fine. 1 pixel less, okay, fine. And then you get into this loop of like, clients mistreating you, and the work that you do, it's not good, and you get demotivated and you're like, fuck everything, I don't want to do it anymore,
Right.
What's your take on this?
Well, first of all, I think there are two elements to this answer. The first one would be there are generalists that know how to do more things at a nice level. These people are also very much needed, Maybe it's difficult to judge because I'm looking at this from like the concept art lens, but I feel like concept art has gotten so hyped against all the other professions in the industry that are very respectable. I know that a lot of VFX guys are needed right now. particle guys, all that stuff, 3D modelers, but somehow the focus has been shifted to the concept art, maybe because that sounds the most hippest or the most easiest or the most fun or anything. So I think there will always be the general audience, the main chunk of people that are like the engine of the industry, that do like this job and that job, which is perfect. We need those people, and I also think that they should earn like 5 times the amount that they earn right now, because it's super important. On the other hand, the other element of my answer is that if you decide to specialize, you will obviously have the opportunity to focus all your power on that specific niche. And if you become really good in a certain niche, you will find work if the quality shows up. So I don't think you will have to be worried about that. But I do think it's important, also from a financial standpoint, and also for your own safety, is to maybe find a way to create income for yourself without having to rely on clients. So that's why I think it's super important. If you can draw really well, maybe you want to make like a graphic novel, who knows, and maybe sell the rights to a Netflix or whatever. I'm just saying like some broad things, but these kinds of avenues are very important for you to consider, because in the end, I think what fulfills an artist's desires most is to work on his or her own personal project.
Yes.
And if you can reap benefits from that passion that you've put into yourself, because I think passion you put in your own project will show the best, in contrary of client work. So.
And you've done it. I mean, you have like ArtStation, products. You have your own knives. You have your own muzzles. You have done so much, and I'm like, I wish I could go back in time and have you as a, kind of like a motivational figure. Oh,
thanks, man. But it's never too late. And what you just mentioned is like you're hitting on the passive income stream right there. So it's work or time you invest one time that'll pay residuals in the future. And this is a very nice way. And it starts small. You can be making like $20 a week from selling 4 tutorials to people. If you keep adding up to that bulk, of tutorials that you're providing or assets that you're doing, it can really sustain your life. It can generate enough income to cover your costs, etc., so that you don't ever have to worry about paying rent, etc. So I think these are very important options that you should consider. And then obviously you can also work on the side to create like more meaningful actual products, instead of doing like some side work that creates a little bit of passive income. But it's a very important consideration that people should make, and we also should be thankful for the platforms that allow us to do it, like Gumroad and also ArtStation, also coming out with the print feature soon. So I'm very excited for that, and I think it's very important to be grateful for people like them who make it possible for artists to make a living,
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. And honestly, coming out from your mouth, I'm like, yes, people probably, will listen to this and they will be like, shit, what am I waiting for? There is no client. We'll make our own clients.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the platforms, and we talked a little bit about softwares. I know that, you are a Moment of Inspiration users, which is, like a rarity in some sort. How do you think that technology is going to affect the industry, generally speaking, in the future?
That's a good question. Well, in terms of the big enterprise softwares like Autodesk, etc., Well, the general conclusion is that, the one who provides the best solution wins. And for a long time, that was Autodesk. They would buy up other companies, integrate, merge, and then offer the package at a ridiculous price, to be honest. So I don't know why they're not doing a subscription model that's more affordable for artists. I'd rather, just from a company perspective, I'd rather have people pay a little bit less than pirating everything. So, but anyway, what you can see with Autodesk, for example, is the lack of innovation has really caused for people to shift into other avenues. And you can see that through people using Cinema or Modo, et cetera, et cetera. But now you can also really see that Blender has taken off completely, also with the amount of plugins and the community that has grown along with it. So I have to say, even though I'm not really a Blender user, I've always been taught Maya, so I still use that. I have to give my deepest respects to Blender and its users for coming up with the incredible plugins and the immense growth that has been incredible, which has put Autodesk and all the other big enterprise companies to shame, to be honest. So even though I'm using a different program myself, whenever I get asked, hey, what programs should I get into? I always say, get Blender and get some type of render engine that's compatible with your machine, and get one type of CAD program, whether that is Fusion or Moi 3D or SolidWorks, whatever. So again, we have to look at the company that delivers the best results, and I think that's incredible. So yeah, in terms of the future, what comes in the future, I think generative design will be big. A lot of companies are investing a lot in that right now. I'm not very knowledgeable in that field, but I do think that generative design, where algorithms take over certain calculations, are very much rising up. But I don't think that artists will ever lose control. So everything will be artist or input driven.
That's a very important thing that you're saying, because in many cases I was shown demos of software that were able, thanks to like AI, to predict behaviors of like designers.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think that the only real computer that is able to interpret the needs of a society, of another person, of a client, is this one.
Yes.
So, if you are able to master the technology will always be an extension of your creativity and not the other way around. Otherwise, if we simply make a statement and say that computers will replace us, then we're fucked. Because the first thing they're going to do, they're going to kill us.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, basically, I think is that there are certain, and we can use it to our advantage as well. So let's say you're making a bike frame, and you're coming up with a structure, or you're coming up with a main shape, but you don't really know what would be the strongest solution in terms of where to make the frame lighter, where to make reinforcements, But who can make those calculations faster and better than us? Well, the computer. So I think it'll be a very nice symbiotic relationship between computer power and the human brain to fill in each other's weaknesses. And for computers, that's input and idea generation, the conceptualization of things, which computers cannot do, or cannot do well with the complexity human brains can. But human brains don't have the speed and calculative power that computers have. So I think it'll be a very symbiotic, like I said again, a relationship where both platforms will work with each other to create like the best possible solutions. And for that, I'm very excited.
Very often when I get asked the question, I'm like, have you ever seen Iron Man, Tony Stark and Jarvis? That's how the future is going to be.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. The only problem there is that you'll have to be able to generate as much money as Tony Stark does.
Yeah, you need to be a rich mofo. Yeah.
To run that kind of rig, It's like... Yeah, I've got a million of GPUs running in the background.
Yeah.
Edon, we are, believe it or not, 45 minutes in.
Crazy. Incredible.
What is the one piece of advice that you want to give to somebody that looks up to you and that, you know, kind of would love to do the same thing and have the same type of professional path? And I promise you this is the last question, and then I'll let you go and enjoy your coffee.
Oh, it has been a pleasure, by the way. So
my pleasure, man. I had expectations, and I have to say that you passed them by a landslide.
Oh, happy to hear that. Happy to hear that. Well, so a piece of advice would be, first of all, you're on this planet, and that's a very lucky situation. Be grateful for that. So there is no time to care what other people think. There is no time to fulfill other people's expectations of you. There's just no time for that, you know? The reason you came to Earth is to fulfill your passion. And I think that's a very important message. So remove negativity from your life, whether that is family, friends, I don't care who it is. You need to put your life in front of others in terms of what you want to do. And I think that way you'll feel a lot more freedom in your heart and find even more energy to fulfill your own passion. And the results coming from that effort that you put in will really show off, and it'll drive you even further. So try to enjoy everything and not care what other people think, and do what you believe is good for you. And I think that will be the ultimate energy source for you to keep doing your thing.
Guys, I told you that I was going to prove you that he's a genius. Dude, thanks a lot for everything. Really happy that you took the time to do this, and I really hope that people will find this interview helpful, you know, to kind of find the guidance and find the inspiration to go on about their days and, you know, be the best version of themselves.
For sure, man. Yeah, definitely hope so as well. Thank you once again, Fabio, for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope people will find it helpful.